Hi, everyone. Hi, and welcome to the first supply chain show brought to you by Supply Chain Digital Magazine, Procurement Magazine, and BizClick Media Group. Joining me today, I'm delighted to say we have editors of not one, but two of our glorious magazines. That's Supply Chain and Procurement, and that's Rhys Thomas and Laura Garcia. So, here we go. How you doing, guys?
Hey, good. How are you doing, Scott?
I'm doing grand. How are you, Rhys?
I'm well. I'd love to say that it's nice and sunny here in the city, but unfortunately it's raining cats and dogs. So there's nowhere I'd rather be than with you guys.
Okay, so okay, great. Well, for anybody who hasn't been brought up with Dick Van Dyke, raining cats and dogs means that it is raining quite heavily here in the UK. So, which means that I should explain the disparity in our weather-based chat there. So, in this COVID era, we're all currently working from home. For me, that means a day spent in Shed Studios here in Gloucestershire. For Rhys, it's the fine city of Bristol in the west of England. And for Laura, she is coming live today from Toronto in Canada. So let's hope the internet connection holds up for this transatlantic live special of Supply Chain. And I must say already, we've got loads of people saying hello on LinkedIn. I'm just going to see if I can pull a few of those up. What is that noise? It sounds like a motorbike zooming past. Now,
that might be coming from me.
Well, whatever you have for breakfast, Laura, it clearly wasn't enough. So I think we'll just move on from that. So later on in the show, we are actually having a reader poll. So if you visit our LinkedIn page right now, we are asking the question because here in the UK, it's Mental Health Awareness Week. And we've been asking, how can supply chain leaders make a difference to employee well-being? Now, obviously, it's Mental Health Awareness Week here in the UK, but this is a universal issue. And I do know that hundreds of you have already had your say in our poll. So please do go to our poll, cast your vote, or whatever the phrase is, and we'll be announcing the results of that poll right at the end of the show. But as I was saying earlier, before we're interrupted by that very bizarre noise, I just wanted to say hello to a few people who are actually joining us today. We've got Marcus coming from Zurich in Switzerland. Hi, Marcus. They're coming in so fast I can hardly keep up. Well, you can see them at home anyway. You don't need me to tell you. You can see all those people there. So without further ado, let's take a look at what's been happening in supply chain this week with the supply chain news. Okay, now, Laura, I think you might have put yourself onto mute previously when we were having that reverberation, but hopefully you're there you go, you're off mute now. And I think you're going to start by telling us a little bit about the news. So what's happening in supply chain?
I am, and unfortunately somebody is mowing their lawn, so hopefully that doesn't go on for too long. But supply chains, as you know, Scott, I'm sure, are impacted 80% or more by their supply chain in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. So it's nice to see that consultancy firm Guidehouse has announced the creation of the Supplier Leadership on Climate Transition Coalition, which is a knowledge platform and brand collaborative. So the initiative is uniting the efforts of Mars, PepsiCo, and McCormick in taking action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And the thought is that by sharing knowledge, resources, and tools, as well as helping to mentor and train their suppliers in emission reduction strategies, the companies hope to accelerate their own initiatives as well as across their entire supply chain. And the aim is to collectively reach net zero by 2050.
Yeah, I mean, no, this is a really great initiative. I had a look at the story myself earlier, and I mean, some of the targets that these huge companies are setting themselves are significant. I mean, I think I read that PepsiCo had set a target of something like 70% reduction in greenhouse gases. Do you have any of those numbers to hand at all?
PepsiCo has committed to reducing absolute scope 1 and 2 greenhouse emissions by 75% and scope 3 by 40% by 2030. And that's from the base year of 2015.
Okay, well, as you said, not insignificant reductions here, and obviously all great news in terms of sustainability. We need to keep those lawns growing because those lawns need cutting right when we're trying to do a live show. But talking about food and talking about sustainability, that's a nice little segue into the fact that we're actually launching a couple of new titles in the coming months as well. One of those is a food related title, and one of them is a sustainability title. So if you enjoy all the good stuff that BizClick brings you in supply chain and procurement, and if you're interested in food and sustainability, and let's face it, who isn't interested in both of those things right now, then make sure you keep an eye out for those. Now, at this stage, this is when I normally do my little hand across the screen to say, if you want to see any of our news or analysis or read any of our magazines, there we go, the power of magic. You can visit our websites, which are supplychaindigital.com and Procurement Magazine. No, it's procurementmag.com, isn't it? It is procurementmag.com. Yeah. Good job. I checked the ticker running across the bottom. Okay, and Reese, you've got another story for us here, and again, it's a UK story, but obviously has global impact and implications, and that's talking about the supply chain for EVs, electric vehicles.
Yeah, that's right, Scott, and it's a sustainability topic, so of course there's a global ramification there. So what's happening is the UK government is they're banning the sale of new petrol and diesel cars here in the UK by the end of the decade. Now, what that means is that they're going to really have to rely on the supply chain over here. So they've tasked the EAC, which is the Environmental Audit Committee, to do a thorough investigation into the supply chain and really how realistic this ban is going to be, because they're going to need to increase the gigafactories over here by 8-fold. They're going to need to invest more into high capacity batteries, specifically for EVs, electric vehicles. And they're also going to have to ensure that the materials for all these new things they're building and they're sourcing come from sustainable sources, because obviously this needs to be squeaky clean. This is part of their carbon neutral efforts and it's part of their climate action. Now, this is, of course, just a localized example of a more global trend. So if you're one of our viewers and readers over in the US, this probably seems very familiar to you, because it's similar to what Joe Biden's been up to in his first 100 or so days in office.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we were talking about this the other day. I mean, President Biden has passed his 100 days in office. But what is of significance to us, and obviously the people on this call, is that he also introduced that 100-day review of supply chain in the US. And I think that the deadline for that is probably fast approaching, isn't it? What's happening with that?
Yeah, that's right. It's the agencies that he's tasked with doing this very in-depth review. They need to report back to him by the 4th of June. So as you say, it's only a few weeks away. And Abe Eshkenazi, the chief executive over at the Association for Supply Chain Management, actually wrote us a really fascinating piece from the inside on actually what this review is doing and sort of Biden's more proactive approach to supply chain. Now, he describes it as packing a punch already in the sort of 100 days or so he's been in office. And that's a really apt way of looking at it, because it's very difficult to see that these agencies are going to come back with thumbs up and green ticks and everything, because it's a very complex and very fractured system there. But the one thing that this sort of all ties together is that governments around the world now are really relying on their supply chains and their global supply chain networks to reach their long-term goals. And I think that's something we're going to be seeing a lot more in the years to come.
Well, absolutely, and obviously a lot of that thinking has been fueled or accelerated with the COVID pandemic, obviously, and the impact and disruption that caused to supply chains. But obviously, there are some geopolitical factors in play here as well. Obviously, we've had the ongoing trade dispute with the US and China, for instance. Obviously, there's the sustainability angle of not only producing goods closer to home to shorten the supply chain, but also the environmental impact that can have as well in terms of sustainability. So, yeah, it's going to be really fascinating. Did you say it was June the 4th that's going to come out, Reese? June
the 4th, that's when they need to report back. When we'll hear about it, I don't know, but that's when they need to report back.
Okay, well, that's something we'll definitely be keeping a close eye on here, on several of our titles, but certainly, obviously, regarding supply chain. And talking of supply chain, you probably can't have failed to notice that we do have our brand new issue out this month. And I think we're going to turn our attentions now to that issue, which is hot off the digital presses this week and featuring this stunning cover, which everyone is talking about. So, Laura, tell me, I'm just reading the cover here. Who is this supply chain queen?
She's everything, Scott. Her real name, of course, is Sherry Heinisch. She's a mother of three. She's a senior leader supporting IBM's global supply chain transformation teams, focusing on sustainable supply chain, omni-channel, and innovation. She's very vocal and she's highly visible supply chain and sustainability influencer. And she's an advocate of what she calls supply chain with purpose. She's also the founder of Supply Chain Revolution podcast and an IBM futurist. And she's been a 3-year running supply and demand chain executive pro to know. And she has a list of credentials as long as my arm. So I won't even get into those.
Yeah, and obviously it's a great interview. We've already had a great reaction to it as well. I know it's proving really popular. So if anybody wants to read that full interview with the supply chain queen herself, then the best way to do that is just to visit our websites. It's free. Just go along. You can read our magazines, you can read our daily news, and you can get all our latest insight and analysis as well. So Reese, as well as the cover feature that we were talking about there with Sherry, what's a feature that you were particularly proud of this issue?
Yeah, I had a really exciting opportunity to speak to a handful of the experts over at SAP around their Industry 4.0 initiative. And I want to draw your attention to one of these. There's 2 in this issue, and there'll be 2 in the forthcoming issue in June as well. But I just want to draw attention to one of those where I spoke to Keith Zobot, who is the Global VP of Digital Products and Projects, quite a mouthful that, at SAP. And he's a very passionate, very knowledgeable man, and he knows his stuff about intelligent products. Now, what are intelligent products? Well, I guarantee that you own them and that you use them probably every single day, because they're as simple as the custom running shoes that you go and you try and get your all-time best out there on the streets, or your phone case that you've put your custom picture on. But it's also the machinery and the different types of units we use throughout the supply chain that are semi-autonomous. They're feeding back to you and they're making sure that they're working. So the concept is very simple, that they make the users' lives better pretty much in every single way. But of course, there's lots of complexity and nuance. So I'm going to hand it over to Keith.
Hi, I'm Keith Zobot. I'm responsible for our digital products and projects portfolio as part of solution management and our digital supply chain. Intelligent products can range in terms of their complexity. We can talk about intelligent products in terms of shoes or watches. And we can also talk about intelligent products in terms of very complex devices, whether they're aircraft or machinery. But there are some common threads in all of them, and many of them have very complex parts, including mechanical parts, electrical parts, and clearly software as well. And these are all used in conjunction to help really optimize how a product is being used in operation. A key part of what SAP is doing is really connecting the discrete processes in product development today. Many companies still are organized in functional silos, and hence the processes that bring products to market are functionally siloed as well. In the design to operate strategy, we're really trying to bring these processes together, which allow some flexibility early in the design process. All of these, whether it's the manufacturing processes, the design process, or the maintenance process, are all working together in conjunction and part of this intelligent enterprise platform.
Yeah, it looks really cool, actually. And you can read the full report on intelligent products and intelligent factories in the latest issue, as I said. And the second half of our white paper with SAP is forthcoming in the June issue. Now, before we move any further, before I can learn how to speak, I just wanted to mention a few people who are joining us today, because I was just looking down the list while that video was playing, and there's people from all over the world. So I just wanted to say hello to Sweden, to Iran, to Kenya, to Brazil, to India, to Singapore, to New York, to Turkey, to Ghana, Indonesia. I mean, yeah, the audience is all over the world. So hi, guys. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. And as I said, still to come, we'll still have more great content to share from this month's magazine. And we're also going to take a look at the current issue of Procurement magazine. So don't go away.
My name is Chris Mazza. I'm the Senior Vice President here at Clear Metal for Business Development and Customer Experience. Clear Metal is a Silicon Valley startup, started a little over 5 years ago with the idea that there needs to be an improvement in supply chain visibility. What we do is we provide the best-in-class international ocean visibility to our customers. What makes Clear Metal unique, it's all about our data. How we get that data, what we do with that data to improve it, and then how we give it to our customers. It's about using that proprietary machine learning and artificial intelligence, and then giving that to our customers. COVID-19 has created a huge demand for core visibility. So the impact, the net of this is, one, data matters more than anything, because if you don't have the data, you don't have the visibility about where your freight is. The second thing I'd like to mention in that regard is also about planning. Our customers will always want to know, what is the performance of my carriers on a port pair basis over time? Now they need to understand that in a much more critical way. There's been many things that have been exacerbated by COVID, but what it does is it emphasizes the core things, visibility, and it's based on quality data.
Okay, and welcome back. And before we go any further, I just want to wish Eid Mubarak to everybody who is celebrating at the moment. So happy Eid. And right, later on, we'll have Laura again talking about Procurement Magazine. But first, Reese, something else that's in this month's issue, which is a feature on end-to-end transparency, I believe. So tell me a bit more about that.
That's right, Scott, and that's obviously a topic that we're all very familiar with at the minute. It's sort of the big buzzword. Everything is moving towards greater visibility throughout the value chain. So we caught up with Mark Miller over at DHL Supply Chain Americas, Jonathan Wright at IBM Services, and Duncan Brock at SIPS, and they sort of walked us through how to realise and get the real potential from this greater transparency. So there's some great insights and nuggets in there, such as the leading supply chains are currently using real-time intelligence 34% more than their peers. So there's lots of different ways there that you can see these technologies are really having a big difference in yielding results. Of course, these are difficult and complex, and they can be very expensive to implement. So they also go through some of the challenges, the common pitfalls, and how to overcome them. So I really implore anyone who's looking to bring greater transparency, even if you think you do it really well already, there'll be something in there for you.
Well sold. I think I'll be going and having another look at that one as well. It's something that I'm talking about a lot with executives at the moment. Transparency, visibility, end to end. These are all common phrases that I'm hearing and are cropping up in conversations. So that all sounds cool. So turning now to Procurement Magazine. So if you are a regular reader of Supply Chain Magazine, you'll know that we recently launched Procurement Mag as well. It's published every 2 months. As you can see, as you can hear even, it sounds like the grass cutting is continuing in Toronto. Somebody clearly tipped them off, which this is all the joy of being live, right? If that's the worst thing that can happen to us today, then we've had a good day. So yes, we publish Procurement Magazine. It's the sister title to Supply Chain, and the current issue features Ninian Wilson from Vodafone Procurement Company as its cover star, and that's somebody that I interviewed, actually. It was a great interview with Ninian a few weeks ago, where he shared his vision, really, for the future of the industry. Now, there were a few videos in this article, but let's take a look at one of them now.
Hi, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Ninian Wilson. I've been fortunate enough in my career to move from IT Procurement Director to Network Director, and now the CEO of the Vodafone Procurement Company. The data and the analytics which we have, of course, within supply chain is huge. We have become one of the most efficient companies in the world in terms of that P2P process. We use data to drive performance and to drive efficiency, and also to drive insight. We've got basically 5 categories of spend which we manage here in the Vodafone Procurement Company. Our technology spend on networks is about 9 billion per annum, so that's the bulk of the spend. The second area of spend is around our devices spend, which is roughly 6 billion per annum. Then we've got another 5 billion of indirect spend. We've got 1 billion of content spend, and then we've got a residual 3 billion of spend. The next big thing for the Vodafone Procurement Company is the complete transformation of our logistics infrastructure. We started a journey a couple of years ago. Now we have a very clear view on our network inventory in every single country in which we operate around the world, and we are now working to create 2 logistics hubs, one for Europe in Luxembourg and another one in sub-Saharan Africa. This will significantly transform how we run our physical supply chain operations, and obviously is very closely coupled with actually the category managers who we have in our business as well.
Well, I didn't realise how dramatic that music was on that video. Actually, now I see it again on the glory of the big screen. But yeah, I say if you've got even the slightest interest in procurement, you absolutely have to go and read that interview. Ninian Wilson, with decades of experience and still innovating and leading the way as well. Now, I understand we're going to be doing something else with Vodafone in an upcoming issue of Supply Chain, Reece. Is that right?
That's right. I know some of the things you spoke to Ninian about in that interview. Some of them are going to be implemented last month and some this month. So very shortly, I'll be speaking with Reinhard Plaza-Barch, who is the Global Head of Supply Chain Management Development over at Vodafone, to see how smoothly those have gone, how they've overcome the challenges, and lots more. So that'll be coming up in a future report in a couple of months' time.
Okay, cool. And now, elsewhere in Procurement Magazine, what was one of your highlights, Laura?
So I got the chance, that lawn mowing is getting closer and closer. But I got a chance to speak to Stephanie Lapierre, which is the founder and CEO of Tealbook. And we dug into supplier diversity, the need for agility, and the power of supplier data. We also looked at some of their numbers and their survey on solid ground that warns that without immediate foundational improvements, further disruptions to supply chains may push them to their breaking point. So interestingly, they found that 96% of procurement professionals are also believing that agility is even more important than cost savings, which is obviously nice to hear for their bottom line.
Absolutely. Okay. Now, still to come, we still have the results of our readers poll coming up. But before then, actually, Laura, would you mind just muting your microphone for me, please? That sounds more like Invasion of the Body Snatchers rather than someone mowing their lawn. So yeah, we've got the results of the readers poll coming up. But before then, there's time to tell you about BizClick's new live event, which is coming up, which is Procurement and Supply Chain Live. This is taking place this year on September 28th to the 30th, and it's going to be broadcast from London all the way to our global audience via our virtual platform. And early bird tickets are available now, and the link, I believe, is going to be in the comments. So if you go to the comments, you should be able to click on a link there and find out more. But we've actually got a trailer. Can we see that now? There you go, more dramatic music. Wow. Now, this is, it's like being back in the cinema. I feel quite nostalgic. Now, this is going to be a really comprehensive event when it comes to content, with dozens of speakers lined up each day. There's going to be keynotes, roundtables, and maybe a few surprises and announcements as well. And we're going to be doing our own announcements, further details in the weeks to come. But I think it's fair to say it's going to be a stellar lineup of the great and the good from supply chain and of course procurement. And you know what? A few people we've spoken about today might even be there. Who knows? Okay, so let's go to the results of our poll. before we sign off. And Reese, I believe you have the golden envelope that has the results in there. So what did our readers say?
I did indeed, and just a reminder for what we asked our digital community this week, it was, how can supply chain leaders make a difference to employee well-being? And that's, of course, because over here in the UK, it's Mental Health Awareness Week. There's been quite an overwhelming majority, 44% of you said investment in digital tools. And I guess that's the idea behind that, is to pulling those sort of storm, what people call the storm, of those daily things that are battering you and stopping you from doing your best every day, taking some of it away from you. And we had a great comment from Sherry Chisholm. So thanks for sharing with us, Sherry. She says, with the age of digitization that we are in, human connection is that much more important. And I think that we can all agree, even with all the bells and whistles and all the tech, that we are just, after all, people.
Well, we are indeed. What a philosophical way to almost end the show, I would say. And yes, while digitization is fantastic, you can't beat that human connection, which is what we have here in a way, across the oceans. So let's see if there's any comments from viewers. There are a few people asking for the links. I think we've posted those in here. More hellos from around the world. We'll try and come back to any questions that have been posted in a later show. And so before that, actually, I just want to talk about the website. So if we just bring up the ticker again there. So I mentioned the websites earlier, but I missed a trick, because not only are we talking about the websites and the URLs you can see there, but our eagle-eyed regular viewers will notice that the websites have undergone a bit of a redesign and a revamp in recent days, if not in recent hours. So we'd really like to know what you think about the new look. Same great content, just a nice new look and a bit more user-friendly and everything else. So go along, have a look, and let us know what you think. So that's supplychaindigital.com. and procurementmag.com. So thanks to you for joining us today and for posting your comments. Just remember, as I said, you can catch all the news on our websites, and also that this show is still available to watch again if you feel that way, or you can watch it on demand. So do tell your colleagues and anyone else who might be interested in supply chain and procurement. So all that's left is for me to say thank you to Reese Thomas and to Laura Garcia and whoever is mowing the lawn outside Laura's house. And also, I just want to say a big thank you to Kieran Waite, who's in the background pulling all those production strings in the background there. This has been a BizClick Media Group production, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.